Hauntzer putting a little bit of an impact on that there in day one.
It's one that MMD doesn't play as well, so
exactly.
Banning it on blue side, given the power, is surprising, and also a ban towards Sven Skaren on the Ivern, just champs that Flash Wolves just don't see very much.
I also think the Ivern ban is extremely smart when you are first pick, like Flash Wolves is this time around, because the two champions that Sven has been looking pretty good on is Ivern and Lee Sin. They're happy to take the Lee Sin for Karsa as that first pick, so it puts TSM in a situation where they either now have to ban it or just deal with that trade.
Something like Lee Sin also will be super high priority for both these junglers, even though we've been seeing it fall through drafts. Karma also another one sticking his nose out. It's surprising to see a Jace ban on blue side here, given that the Jace priority was in a little bit of top lane Jace, no mid lane Jace, so a bit of a fishy one in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Bjergsen certainly is someone who can play mid lane Jace, and this may be something that they've encountered in scrims because he is pretty proficient on the champion, but definitely not an NA special, and we may simply get a trade of Lee Sin and Graves here.
Let me say though, this is the second time we're seeing Lulu Karma bans from TSM, and it's worrying that TSM found out on the Rift they can't play these protect the wild turtle comps, and now it feels like they have to auto-ban one of the dominant strategies against basically every team, even though Betty is right down there when it comes to people you traditionally think will be set up to carry.
Yeah, and I mean, Betty especially is someone who only really plays supportive AD carries in general, so this is not the guy that you would hope you have to be so worried about this against.
Well, taking it off the board so they don't have to see any of it. We do see a rumble for the side of MMD. Hauntzer hovers his old Camille picks we haven't seen quite some time here.
Yeah, and I mean, were this a patch or two ago before the most recent Camille nerfs, I would be saying he's locking Camille here for sure. But that said, he hasn't brought it out and may not have the confidence to do so after the most recent nerfs. So the question becomes, what does Hauntzer have in his pool that can match up well against the Rumble with Kennen gone, with Camille nerf?
Yeah, that big nerf is the nerf to the W sustain off minis. You wanted to kind of max W in a lot of matchups just to have counter push, and this is one you can run, and it is one that Hauntzer has shown that he can play, but he's certainly not a Kled god if they elect into it. However, the Fizz is one that we've perhaps looked over. So we're talking about hovers, all of them good against the Rumble, and he settles on the Fizz.
And we have to remember, Fizz also can go mid lane. It has been played in mid lane.
Hey, look at those summoners though, so come on.
It's very likely, I'll give you that, but we do have to keep in mind that it's possibly a flex here. Jensen liked to play it in mid lane. Some people did play it in mid lane in NA, and I think it can still be a pretty powerful pick if they see a good pivot.
And the funny thing is, you know, you look at the summoners, he's changing them up now. It's also a blocker pick for Syndra, because we've already seen from Faker, and historically, that's a strong matchup into Syndra, who is this pretty staple blind pick mid lane, which is so important on blue side. So it is serving double duty, and that's a smart draft from TSM.
You have to say, if you are TSM, and if you are a TSM fan, you are very happy with the draft so far. You have Sven Skaren on what is probably his best champion. You have Hauntzer, who could be having a very advantageous matchup in the top lane, and I think that it's a lot of comfort picks, but it's also things that make sense within the context of the draft so far.
And already show a bit of playmaking for TSM there. They won't be struck. If they're behind, you can get a fish in there and possibly make a play. Always looking to stay ahead, though. Might be tough now that we're looking at a Tahm Kench, a Graves, and a Rumble for the side of Flash Wolves.
And it's kind of amazing that we might see a blind Tahm Kench into an answering Braum for the second time today. When it was from SKT, that was very much showing that it was going to be the Twitch. It was going to be a hyper carry. So the read, when it comes to double support bans, maybe actually it will be Betty that's relied on here, because the only reason you opt into Tahm Kench this early is when you see double supportive bot laners banned, and you think, okay, Twitch, Cogmore, maybe we're going to get ready to go hyper carry in the bot lane.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I do think that Tahm Kench also offers the utility of denying assassin picks. You know, if it is an AP Fizz mid, it can block that out pretty well. I think you can do that as well, but I don't really love the Braum pick into the Tahm Kench. I do think that you can go an AP route and you can bully those lanes and get an advantage there, especially if they are trying to draft the Twitch. If you draft the Braum into this Tahm Kench Twitch lane, you allow the Twitch safety and farming that he wouldn't otherwise have if you have something like a Nami and a Caitlyn, which is much more of a bully lane.
So it's fun that the Fizz has done the double duty. Now it's actually Flash Wolves banning Syndra away, because Syndra is still that very safe blind pick champion on the side of TSM in the first pick on the second round of the draft. So doing a lot to do there, and of course does have that powerful matchup into the Rumble. The Zed is certainly a respect band to Maple, one that he was famous for at previous international tournaments.
Surefire initiation taken away from Betty on his support playing AD carries. There's the Ashe out.
Now what I'm expecting here from TSM, Betty is known for playing the 3 supportive AD carries. You ban out Ashe, now you first pick the Varus in the second rotation. Then you're saying, well, your only comfort pick is now Jhin, which we're not worried about at all.
Ezreal as well.
He can play Ezreal, but he has far fewer games on things like Ezreal and Caitlyn and these sorts of champions. So I do think the pick ban shows a lot of preparation here from TSM and has been pretty good so far.
We'll wait to see if they go with the last step. The other thing to like also is that Ezreal and Tahm Kench as a duo don't really have a lot of synergy. You normally take Ezreal because you can go for a riskier support because you have so much safety on the Ezreal, and the two of them don't push very fast either against the Varus Braum. Even Varus would do the heavy lifting there, so you're right. Based on reputation at least, they've got a really good spot in terms of approach to the draft. And now we're seeing what Flash Wolves want to look to. Now they already have damage from the jungle and the top lane, but they've been setting up for this hyper carry and they're at least mousing over.
Yeah, and I mean, if they go that route, then Betty has to prove he's able to play it, because this is a guy who always plays extremely defensively. He builds defensively. He almost always gets tabbies early. He almost always gets a QSS early, and he plays scared.
Right.
And that's a Jhin. This is a great read from TSM, because this is his last comfort pick that they have left up. And I think Jhin is extremely weak in the current meta and very bad into Braum, by the way, which was already picked. So, you know, Flash Wolves here, it feels like they're going for comfort over like a strong pick in the draft.
And it looks like it can all be absorbed. As you were saying, you get that the equalizer coming out, the curtain call coming down. TSM's just going to be able to stand around it or block it and then make their move.
And the Rise comes in against there. Again, comparisons to the last time we saw Flash Wolves, but it's not Ezreal. It's not a champion that can really run away with a team fight if he's not closed down at the start. Right. Even if he has a strong front line, not necessarily known for being able to turn fights like an Ezreal. So I feel like Karsa has to do a lot of heavy lifting, especially in the early game, to really allow the Flash Wolves to have enough damage to go through into the late game.
I certainly agree, and I think that Karsa is such a strong point for the Flash Wolves. You're going to have a pushing top lane with MMD on the Rumble, especially in the early levels. Fizz cannot really fight back, so that's where you have to look for Karsa to take advantage, maybe pick on Svenskeren a lot, who has been looking pretty bad in most of these games. And I do think that Karsa has the ability to get them that lead, despite the fact that I like TSM's draft a lot more.
Both teams matching AP top and mid, AD in the jungle and at the bot lane. It's going to be a heck of a matchup here. Definitely some volatile fighting to come out. We'll have to see what happens in the early game, though. Eyes on Svenskeren in their previous game versus SKT. A little too hard, a little too strong, and started to put the team behind.
The other thing I will say for Flash Wolves, they're straight up 2v2 as far as poke and everything like that. Their actual laning power is pretty low. The kill potential of a Tahm Kench Jhin is actually very high.
Oh.
If you can tag someone with that Q from Tahm Kench, you can root them up from Jhin.
Yep.
It often allows you to get your 3 stacks, eat them up. So the all-in potential is extremely high, especially if Karsa wants to visit the bot lane here. You can look for them to do that because they have great gank assist, they have great all-in.
And if you can rotate through the Fizz lane, who famously doesn't have wave clear, especially when you're going for a more AD on hit build rather than the usual AP of the past, you can put that Fizz behind levels and then rotate a 1-3-1 through the Fizz. If they can actually hold Fizz down, force very negative magic resist orientated itemization, playing through Hauntzer is an option for Flash Wolves.
Well, you can see the setups on your screen. We will be heading into the matchup in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely isn't. We also saw lane swap earlier today.
That's true. Anything can happen.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen here. Actually worked out pretty well, too.
MSI continues. Here we go. Flash Wolves versus Team Solo Mid. TSM 1 and 2. Flash Wolves 1 and 2 as they hit the rift. We have to remember Flash Wolves coming off a pretty extended win over the Gigabyte Marines just recently. Their confidence built up a little bit, but it also shows they know how to weather a storm. They know how to take it to the late game.
The things like limited sample size and the other arguments you make for your favorite teams underperforming at the start of a tournament start to go out the window when we're nearing the 50% mark. There's 10 games for each of these teams in group stage, 4th for both TSM and Flash Wolves. So we're both looking for both teams to make a big impression to actually put in that hope for the top 4.
Certainly, and for Flash Wolves, if you fall to 1 and 3, you know, as a team, what most people had power rank 2nd, that is pretty brutal. And Hauntzer's probably going to have to rank his E here unless he already skilled up.
Chasing on to Hauntzer.
He has 200 HP, a few more hits. Gonna have to look for the hop, and the E was taken.
I mean, that was very close from Hauntzer. It ends up actually being beneficial for him because he gets the flash, but I mean, that's so risky to use the E that late. Sure worked out well, but I don't know if I can say that was a good play or not.
I'm gonna be close, baby.
I'm gonna be glass half full. He obviously had not skill, doesn't have flash famously because you go for the ignite to have lane pressure as Fizz, and he does draw in a flash after he'd seen the quick draw already. Right. So glass half full for TSM for once from the Korean analyst. Says, nice play, Horns.
Yeah, nice play as it did turn out. I do think it is going to be a little bit even more troublesome because you're going to get pushed in for sure already as the Fizz in the early levels by Rumble, and now you don't have your W to help you last hit under the turret, so certainly expect Hauntzer to give up even more CS in the early stages of the game.
So he's going to get up there and be a few behind already as MMD lets that go straight to the mid and reset. Or I should say start, as it hasn't even started yet.
And jungle pathing for Karsa is actually a little bit unknown here, just because they don't have full control over any quadrant of the jungle. So where he paths from red buff, it'll probably just be predictably to his blue. But because they spent so much time chasing down Hauntzer, there was no double ward in the top side. The single ward around the entrance to Raptors goes down. So usually when we see those sort of invades, it's for an information rather than necessarily focusing on the kill. But it got so close, the information could never be drawn out.
There's that early level 2 by MMD. He's holding it out, and we'll see how much trouble Hauntzer actually has under this turret as he tries to farm up.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big question. How much of the CS can he actually pick up there, as it does get pretty tough?
A few love taps in the bottom lane as Betty and Sword Art. As we said, they're not going to have too much pressure from this lane, are just able to keep putting the auto attacks on, threading them in between the CS. Not much of a lead there as all lanes are quite even. Starting things off, just Karsa's flash down.
And topside could be quite a point of contention here as well, because Rumble is a pretty good gank target for Svenskeren, especially since Hauntzer is using the Ignite here on Fizz. But, you know, likewise, you don't have flash to escape if you're Fizz. So if the lane is pushing against you up to your opponent, then you can be pretty vulnerable too.
But the mind games are pretty next level now, because clearly after the level 1, it is a very predictable gank path. So you think, okay, is Lee Sin going to be there for coverage? And then Karsa, if he ever quick draws in aggressively, the information is there for TSM that he doesn't have flash. So despite there being predictable pathing around top, I think Karsa thinks better of it, and Svenskeren is allowed to just go for more of a power clear rather than having to provide coverage for a Fizz who naturally does fall behind at the early levels.
And they have spotted this Graves actually over here. Sven now spotted out as well. Not sure if he wants to take this fight since he is down a level.
Both double buffed up. He chooses not to and make sure he has clear vision with the Scryer's Bloom. But this also saves Bjergsen for a time. Junglers are known at this point. Hauntzer goes a little bit harder on the top lane with some aggression, knowing that it's
But this could definitely be a game that drags out to the late game. This does feel like it could go to 30 to 40, 50 minutes. You'd actually look and say, okay, who does that really benefit? My first impression is definitely TSM, just given that Fizz can really take over a game like this after a couple of items, can naturally itemize into both of the people he's likely to split push against with something like a Spirit Visage, just investments into magic resist. So we were talking about, okay, hold down the Fizz, then try to play around him. The converse is give Fizz a free laning phase, and the pain is pretty inevitable as well.
Definitely is, and even if you want to go for more of an aggressive split pushy build, you can go for things like Wit's End, which also work extremely well, I think, on both of those matchups.
I'm waiting for the Trinity Force Bork. That's my favorite build.
Of course.
I remember Zatai building that way back when we saw the introduction of this top lane Fizz.
And I mean, that's certainly standard. You do expect those two items, but sometimes you can go even more aggressive than that.
I come from the Korean region. They build a lot of magic resist. Maybe we get a Trinity Force. We've never seen a Bork. I've been hoping and praying for one. So.
Okay.
The full deep.
Get that a lot in
If I get that from Hauntzer, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Body's so ready.
You're just not asking hard enough. So you see Lost Chapter tier being stacked up by Maple now in mid, as we would expect. And once again, Betty and Sword Art at the turret of Wild Turtle and Biofrost. 42 to 38. CS starts to separate a little bit, but it'll just be cleaned up here between the aggression and the lanes. Deja vu between Svenskeren and Karsa in the same spot as they start to hover this top side to control top and that mid lane.
Also showing no respect at all for Svenskeren.
Yeah.
Happy to just chase him in. He knows that Rise has position on Orianna in the mid lane as Bjergsen has just got back. So both of them have Ghost. He would have got first reaction, and that's why so confident to just quick draw in.
And anytime Karsa is able to track Sven like that, it gives MMD the ability to push up very safely, knows there's no threat really coming in from that jungle. So as Graves, you want to essentially just be power farming here. You want to be tracking the Lee Sin. There's not as much of a requirement for him to get something done as far as ganking in the early.
I mean, his kill pressure's so low, even though you can talk about the instant cast snare from Rise, a Season 3 analysis point. If I've ever had one, it really doesn't work in the early game with that low CC duration. So the power farming, and as you say, the tracking, being more of a battle ward than necessarily a ganker, is what Karsa wants to be doing.
And I'm surprised he got away with that, knowing how early that flash was blown. It's easy to say 5 minutes there. He didn't have it for 40 seconds, and they still gave him a little respect.
Hauntzer is 6 now, so if Rumble steps up to the wave, look for the fish, and they're going to go for the all-in.
Come dim. There's the 6 from MMD as well. He gets the flash forward. Damage down to half HP. They could be able to finish it. Smoke screen comes out, and they drop MMD. It's not enough mitigation from Karsa, and it looks like he will not pick up anything on the outside.
That was really well done from TSM. Sven moves up right as Hansor is going to hit level 6, and they know because MMD had the earlier base, they have the XP advantage and will hit that ultimate at a perfect timing. They get the flash, they get the kill, and the first blood on the guy who's going to be their wing condition late game.
Exactly, it's perfect stuff for TSM. We're going to see the replay. Even though Karsa had coverage earlier, no wards are down to actually track Lee Sin. It was smart pathing for Svenskeren to just go for a pure lane gank. He doesn't need the level 6. MMD is only going to push the wave back. And even though Karsa flashes in, with level 6, perhaps he can turn it around, but hadn't achieved that yet.
He just got that flashback.
Using it off cooldown, getting value
That's
out of the
how
flash.
it is, yeah. Have to.
No investment banking on the flash from Karsa.
Recurve Vampire Scepter for Turtle. Serrated and some long swords for Betty, so they're kind of matching damage. As things calm down after the top side, Karsa's back to get red. And it looks like we got a little help from Sword Art here. They don't head towards mid though.
I mean, everything is pretty stable across the map, but top lane is going to be very scary for MMD. You're going to see him playing with much more respect now. He can't just blindly push up, because if you shove in Hansor and his fish comes up, he will all-in you and chase you down in this lane. So you have to be pretty careful now as MMD.
I mean, MMD's been in the spot a few times already this weekend when it comes to being behind. Hansor isn't going for any defensive itemization, again, like I'm used to, where it's usually Spectre's Cal before the start of the Trinity Force.
Right.
So gank might work as well. Flash actually forced out of Betty. Kench was roaming for awards, so let's say good trade there. Just the ultimate from the Varus, traded for the flash. Yeah, it's going to be very defensive lane. Now a control wall that looks very aggressive from Haunts in the top lane brush. It just doesn't feel like MMD will ever have the breathing room to be able to roam down and clear it.
And that's the one word you feel you don't want to place, because you never have pressure on it, but Haunter's going to be able to camp right on top of it. No problem from actually taking E first. Really was able to stave off the pressure from MMD, farm up under his turret, and now up in CS after that kill. Looks like they're going to keep going. He's safe to stay in the lane.
Just to give some credit here to Betty, I do not think that Jin is a very strong laner, and being up a couple CS, it was definitely something can't scoff at. But that said, he will really struggle, I think, against the Braum in the later stages.
I mean, Betty's kind of the benefactor of the fact that with the smart pathing around bottom, there's been 2 control wards very often around bot, so a lot of the coverage has been bot side, whereas, as you can see on the screen, TSM's coverage is
Lee
top.
is here.
Difficult gank to be put into, but Karsa hits it, end of the line, just misses. Haunter's gonna be forced to die, takes the Q past the minion, collateral damage misses, MMD very low, 200 HP, tries to deny vision in the brush, but Karsa wards it. Now it's a 1v1, Svenskeren's out, and so is Karsa.
1-for-1, that flash, if he had it, could have been a potential double kill. So they're going 1-for-1 when all their coverage has been around bot side, when all the pressure has been top side for TSM, it's actually really good for Flash.
Yeah, it definitely is. And Haunter just took so much damage at the start of this fight. The overheated Flame Splitter really chunking him down. But a lot of credit to him surviving so long here, allowing him to get that extra bit of damage out and make it a 1-for-1 and not just a complete tragedy.
It does make me return to itemization. A lot of base values are there for the Fizz. I don't feel like working towards a phage is really needed compared to, say, for example, building into a Spectre's Cow, because you will inevitably take overheated Flame Splitter damage. The trades go much more one-sided if you can shrug off the damage largely from the Rumble.
Yeah, it's definitely a more risky build, and you know, Spectre's Cowl much more, I think, consistent there. But that said, when you hit an early training force, it can be scary.
Oh. Flash down, it just means Devour for Sword Art onto Betty, and he is safe after another Chain of Corruption, but now you can see that Chain of Corruption on cooldown is going off in bottom.
I mean, you want to jump out and shout when you see a Chain of Corruption register. That's an ability that does miss very often, but unless it's on Tahm Kench, and Tahm Kench is the priority, predictably, it's not a hype moment. We didn't start shouting, Riv, you managed to keep it together.
We're doing all right. 10 minutes in, stay insane.
Again, we could be going super late here, guys.
No, it's so true. Seeing the Orianna as well, if Haunter kind of gets leveled out, say, he's not going to be doing as much just assassin pressure. It'll be the Orianna shockwaves later with the Chum the Waters. But MMD has been taking a lot of pressure top lane. If they can't stave that off, TSM could have themselves a pretty fast game.
So actually the rush for Wild Total, looking to sidestep some skill shots. The only reason there is fancy footwork from Haunter just to clear a blasting plan, given that's a popular gank route for Karsa, certainly more than just flashy plays for him.
Yeah, it's definitely smart to make those little moves. They can really shut down a gank because it means Graves loses his quick draw on the entrance to the gank. So, as long as he is paying attention to the map, there's almost no way that's where the gank is actually going to work.
I was going to say, interestingly enough, an untouched mid lane, but now Bjergsen getting hit. We saw the Abyssal Voyage come in. Now the curtain call, if he can just dip and dodge, he's not even watching the show right now. He's out and it's easy. Flash and Ghost, though, to make that happen, so it could be a repeat. Both for the mid laners, just going back to mid.
Still 4 summoners blown there actually by Flash Wolves because it's Sword Art Flash,
right.
Double summoners there from Maple, the ultimate from Jhin. They really wanted to move mid lane here, get the kill, and then pressure the turret. They're trying to take down the wave clear of Bjergsen.
And that's the further loss is, okay, summoner spells, but Varus got free time in the bot lane. Wild Turtle picked up unanswered CS when he was losing CS. And okay, it's still a few CS behind. But when you invest so heavily and have to kind of walk of shame all the way back to bot lane after picking up nothing, then Flash Wolves lose out on just a couple of 100 gold and also pressure that was clear on the map before they made that grand rotation.
Well, looks like TSM won a little bit more, maybe first turret in the game. Dragon could be dangerous with MMD equalizer. We'll have to see.
Been something Sven has really struggled with, getting caught out on invades.
Looks like he is actually going to make it out. The burn doesn't take. Oh no!
This is time and time again. Sven Skaren doing aggressive invades. The lanes are not in a position to help him if he needs it. And not only does he miss the smite, he doesn't even use it, which would have meant he got the health back and probably survives that. So didn't even get the smite off on the red, dies for it, and blows his summoner. It's pretty tragic.
Great plays by Flash Wolves to pinch down on these. They're saying, yeah, we're taking hits, but that doesn't mean we can't punch back. And the Sven Skaren, again, as you said, in the jungle is one way they get back. And
just to harp on the Sven Skaren, watching the NALCS from afar, of course, you guys both casting it feels like very often we see misreads from Sven Skaren around when and where TSM have pressure. Sure, back at Worlds last year, a lot of great invades, a lot of contention on the Raptors. But okay, flashy kill by Karsa, but it's a symptom of a larger problem for TSM in that Sven Skaren and his lanes are not passing information, are not pressuring equally, because this happens too often. Once in a while, sure, but basically every game, unacceptable.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I mean, Karsa does get some credit for cleaning that up, and it is an area that we talked about where Flash Wolves should have an advantage. And lo and behold, he is 2-0. He's farming very well on the Graves, and he's going to be a big threat moving forward.
Just going to say, impressive to see all the pressure he's been creating, and the guy literally has hardly ever had Flash through the game in the enemy jungle in the face of a counter gank in the top side, and he's coming out on top for his team.
Big item spike for Hornster. He has gone all the way into the Trinity Force, which
halfway
basically
there,
means
Papa.
Halfway to the... We'll see if Play the Rune King's the next time. If it is, I'm just going to shake my head, but in kind of impressiveness rather than anything else. Mid lane. Remember, no flash here.
Looks like you're going to easily lock down here. Karsa wants to try and play, and Sven Skaren may say, let's do this. Throws the Q back out. Sonic Wave.
Monster
no
is roaming down. They may look to try to chase this, but no, it does decide to go back up.
Lost vision on MMD. Got a little scary for a second, but as we're chatting it up, these guys are going at the fights immediately.
They definitely are, and the Triforce here, you may not be used to seeing it rush as much, but as soon as you hit this, especially once you get to the rank 11 mark, the all-in potential becomes very, very high here. MMD is going to have to play very scared, and you see that, dropping the equalizer, backing off, knowing that Sven could be up here and that he could get all in.
But do they really need to draw the Lease into the lane when there's so much inherent kill pressure? If I'm MMD, I see the Trinity Force and just leave. Scott's trying to battle over the Gromp. I don't know if that's the win condition they were looking for, but again, I feel like already, as you said, if you've got a Trinity Force, the Rumble's just going to be under turret trying to clear. He's not going to be walking up to a minion wave, so he's going to be backing away anyway. I don't feel like necessarily pathing around this insane a lead in terms of offensive itemization is necessary for Sven.
Yeah, definitely agree. Maybe you can look to a Dragon, which TSM is going to start up now, and with Tomkins just basing, it seems like Flash Wolves are not aware and should be going their way.
Double control ward here for TSM. Only Ocean Drake, you could argue as well, so London Brown also just inherently drawing a lot less resources. So much of the battle for wards is being won by TSM. After that pressure in the top lane, double control ward top, double control ward bottom. So basically entire river vision is exclusive for TSM.
And this is something that TSM does do well when they are in control. There are 5 pinks on the map. That is something that you like to see from any competitive team, and it's something that they are pretty good about playing around.
And another inventory of 5 ready to be placed if they lose those positions. Flash Wolves trying to get a few of theirs up as well, but a lot are on the defensive side. They don't feel comfortable guarding them. Sword Art in a pretty sticky situation. Hard skins up, the shield dissonance to give Biofrost the movement. Concussive blows aren't even needed, and he's gonna go ahead and stand over the wall. If he can make the W, he just flashes anyways. Command protect in. Karsa does not get this one on the collateral damage.
And Sword Art trying to battle back on the vision, but a fight on top side.
Oh, MMD doing about 200 HP to Haunter, but he zeroes out the Rumble in the top lane.
And TSM win on both sides. The lure of killing the control wards forces the overset from Sword Art, and predictably MMD is taking that proxied between turrets in the top lane. So massive win for TSM, and you come back to the control wards. What it means is that TSM, with the scaling comp as we identified, is in comfort in multiple lanes,
yes.
And that's why they continue to inch forward exactly as they dropped.
Yeah, and I mean, if you hit the fish here, beautifully played from Haunter, Q's forward to get the extra range to land that fish, and then there's no way out for MMD, has no flash, and that ignite on the fizz gives you so much extra pressure.
And this time Svenskaren's there, again unnecessarily, but he gets to see the sick play right up close, so at least he got the front row too.
This is for the high five. Sis, great job. Only about 1,000 gold in the lead with all this action, but I feel like the pressure is going to start coming tenfold in turrets for TSM on the next one.
Pressure can be measured in so many different ways, whether it's a kill feed that's going the way of the enemy, 5-2, obviously not a massive one, or just inherently, well, I can't enter lane, the Fizz has Trinity Force, or the control wards mean we have no vision advanced of our own side of the jungle. Speaking of no vision, we're seeing Svenskaren once again play through top, and MMD, that minion wave is way, way too far for him to even consider approaching.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big reason we're seeing Sven up here so much is they're trying to play through their strongest player right now in this game, and they are trying to get down the turrets, right? They really want to unlock that turret. If you can kill that off, Rumble has almost no safety.
But at some point, it feels like sending an army to help Superman take down a supervillain. They've already got Superman. There's no kryptonite here at all, Azael. Nowhere necessary. Svenskaren cowers in fear. He thought maybe the Fizz was going to walk up next to him. I understand the theory, but I feel like the Fizz is already the one-man army that TSM needs. Fans just hyped.
The fans are hyped. Haunter's controlling the lane. They're actually keeping MMD basically in his lane. Haunter's allowing all these minions to be denied. Should be able to take it here and start to spread the pressure. Are they going to lose first blood because they haven't taken it?
And that's, again, what I'm talking about is that they didn't need the Lee Sin pathing around this lane. He could have been trying to relieve pressure. They could have been trying to make something proactive. And losing first break or first turret blood when you have advantages everywhere is the part where, like, okay, TSM, things have been clean till now. That's the VOD review circle mark right there. Part, it's going to have a big headache about 19 minutes in.
Well, we'll see if this opens up Haunter more than it opens up Flash Wolves. I feel like it's a bit of a floodgate for both teams. Maple still charging up, but does have a little bit of power for himself. As you see TSM's kills, those 5 are across the ones they're trying to put power in. Haunter's 2, Svenskaren and Bjergsen, all those lanes they put to win these games.
And TSM fans will be like, okay, what? TSM will win. Haunter is doing great. Why are we harping on the mistakes they're making? It's because we want to shoot for X's. We want to have high expectations for every team at this tournament. Most of the teams here have been utterly regionally dominant, and for TSM to make very achievable, very clear mistakes goes against a lot of the clean play and undoes a lot of the advantages. Flash Wolves should never be trading up when the control ward line was all through the river, when MMD basically couldn't enter lane and is still 2 levels under Haunter.
I do think, to be fair, TSM is in a very good position. They have massive advantage in the top lane. Bjergsen is farming very well. He has a kill under his belt. It's not like top lane is very far behind either.
This is going to be the first do-si-do between Maple and Haunter. He feels like he can take him, but the army needs to be beat by an army, and Haunter pulls 3 to the top lane with MMD's teleport. Looks like he may be going down here as the final rune prism locks him up.
For what TSM will do across the map, though, as you say, the army was drawn in this time, the Flash Wolves army, and TSM are not playing through top lane and still are trading up in some ways. They have a lot of map control. A kill on a Flash Wolves is good on paper for the Flash Wolves, but we'll see what TSM want to do because they're looking for a collapse.
Yeah, they definitely are, and they are moving up here. Haunter will have TP when he does respawn. We'll see if TSM can slow play this and kind of corral them in here.
Equalizer down, collateral damage up. You do have the Jhin ultimate, but Betty's getting pretty close here for the fight. Looks like TSM makes their way to the top side, sticking together. Flash Wolves gain a bit of position. This may be a little bit of time they can use to get some more forward wards in and stop the TSM snowball.
I mean, if TSM can move here to defend, they do have a ward. It's pretty far away, but there are some wards Haunter could look to TP to if they want to fight here.
Now it looks like they're not going to. They could have looked for aggression, as you say. A teleport flank, Bifrost flash ulting. Both of these possibilities, they don't lose the turrets. They look for, again, the perfect play, the measured play, and that's why, for now, defensive with Haunter again. It's about half his health bar for free.
Be careful how confident they feel while they're alone in the jungle. Flash Wolves is moving as a squad right now. We do have that Cloud Drake alive to take.
And while these aren't like the big Tekken Dragons, it's not an Infernal. I mean, you talked about it earlier, Papa Smithy, how this game definitely has the potential to go very late. And I think that anytime you're looking at a game that can go very late, you have to take into consideration the Elder Dragon.
So many people bot lane, and Haunter make the great escape.
They have a push down mid, but the minions really aren't past river here. Haunter's gonna die quite quickly, allowing Flash Wolves to recuperate and find themselves a reposition.
And TSM just don't have the waves in the correct position to actually get anything off this. They can't really threaten Baron in time. Mid lane was not fully pushed up. They're going to try to move top and have Flash Wolves make the recalls and see if they can get up there in time, but looks like Equalizer is available, so Rumble's probably just going to drop it.
There it is, straight down the middle of the wave, nicely done. You can get a shield on Svenskeren to help him get out from Bjergsen. But they're going to try and take this turret as much as possible. Who gets the turret? It's going to be Sven. And they're actually just going to safeguard their way out. Not really traded here on the bot side. Betty was choosing to back or go, and it looked like he couldn't make a decision, so he will just back.
Flash Wolves, though, are looking towards the mid lane turret, so they're still making those trades. You think overall, sure, it's an inner turret for an outer turret, but another kill, and I criticize personally TSM playing too much through Haunter. Now they're just letting Haunter exert his pressure, but they're not making plays around the map at the same time. So it feels like lose-lose for TSM, despite the fact that Haunter is hilariously ahead in terms of laning items against the Rumble.
Yeah, he definitely still is, but last time we checked in, he was 2 levels up, and he has not gotten really any experience or farm since then, so the gap is certainly closing.
Those are awkward words to say in an international broadcast.
We're not talking about Korea here, Papa
That's true,
Smithy.
we are not. We skillfully avoid that topic.
Yeah.
Maybe a later game today.
What is the vision? What does Flash Wolves look for here, knowing that Haunter's going to be splitting and knowing that he's going to be creating that side lane pressure?
Yeah, right now it's pretty neutral, you have to say, all in all. Maybe gets a bit of free damage onto Haunter. Still better, has no coverage at all really on his side apart from some spot vision. So we'll back away. But you don't really see a plan from TSM. You don't really see them setting up for anything right now. Just a bit of slow pushing from Bjergsen in the top lane. Their vision supremacy over the river wards is now gone. It's in fact Flash Wolves who are inching forward with their own vision for basically the first time this game around the 25-minute mark.
And again, too, on that bot side, we just saw the damage from Maple actually pushing Haunter out of lane. So, as I said, Haunter might be a problem. He is kind of taken care of for the time being. TSM now gathers back a mid to protect what is left of that second-tier turret.
The way this TSM comp should work is provide coverage for Haunter and have Haunter do all the heavy lifting, draw the sort of members we saw before, but actually make plays around the map. So right now, don't really have coverage for Haunter. Don't really necessarily have the sweepers actually used to get vision around Baron. So that's why it just feels like a stalemate. Now they're just trading CS with Flash Wolves, which 10 minutes ago would be unthinkable given how strong their Fizz was.
Yeah, I think for now TSM really is just looking to get Haunter to that stronger point, get some more items under his belt so he can be dominant in the side lanes. Because while he still certainly can match up very well against MMD, it's not going to be as easy against Maple, right? He needs to get to a bit of a stronger point here, I think. And I'll be interested to see where he's going to go next with his items. The Merc Tread certainly will help him out a lot against Maple.
For now, at least, keeping away from the Blade of the Ruin King I was promised. Shame on both of you. Got my helps up. We're building a bit more tanky. I feel like he can still tussle pretty decently with Ryze, if not with the kill pressure that he's obviously looking for. And it has to be the plan, just because otherwise you're opting into team fights against a Rumble who still has been able to put down the core items. And Flash Wolves do have good team fight options. Sure, you could look at something like the Orianna, but again, I feel like pure 5v5s is not what TSM was ever opting into the moment they cemented Fizz versus Rumble.
Yeah. It's certainly true, but there is always the playmaking ability, with champions like the Lee Sin, a relatively low mobility AD carry on the Jhin. So, TSM definitely has options. I don't think that they are trumped in team fighting by any means, and I think that they do still have side lane options. And this game going slow does not necessarily mean that it is disadvantage to them. That said, Karsa is extremely strong, and his damage output is going to be massive in the team fights. So I think Flash Wolves is going to be looking for picks, looking for engages, with the Tahm Kench ultimate, the Jhin ultimate. And if they can get kills, they'll probably try to force Baron.
With luxury itemization even for Karsa. Got a Vamp Scepter in the inventory, not an item we usually see. Play the Ruin King was played by a couple of Jungle Graves in Korea, so it was messed around with without necessarily being popular, so maybe a snowball build here. An alternative to the Phantom Dancer, which I think is more common on the Graves.
Yeah, we've definitely seen it in NA as well. Definitely snowball item contracts, kind of having his famous quadra kill Graves game. He went for that too.
This time, TSM, you see the plan. No one is trying to enter lane against Hauntzer, so they're trying to get as much vision around the quadrants of Baron as possible without necessarily being able to cement a threat onto it, because they just can't actually put a control ward on Baron and not have Flash Wolves clear it out.
And this is where the rest of TSM has to be very careful. They need to be clearing waves, but they can't overextend. If you get caught out at this stage when there's people missing off the map, when Hauntzer is trying to farm on the bot side, it can be pretty bad.
But it is Lee Sin Braum that can do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to clearing, and they can both play Ring Around the Rosie, it feels like, and get out of basically every bad situation. So sure, Wild Turtle randomly getting caught clearing a ward is something that could happen, but the percentages here for TSM on being able to pretty aggressively use their sweepers, of which they had 3 a moment ago, now back to 2, to me is pretty relevant safety.
Caution begins to compound on itself for each team, as well as you see the item spikes come out, and then everybody realizes, well, every summoner's up for everyone, so a flash play can be a possibility. Keeping that distance is keeping these fights from happening until they have the perfect vision. Here we have another sweep coming in from TSM to gain control over the top side. Another Cloud Drake is alive, and it synergizes pretty well with Flash Wolves' composition, Storm Raiders, Rise, and the rest of their comp. We'll see how they play this.
Finally, a wave is pushed up from Hauntzer, who hasn't been able to get wave pressure onto the turret. Take down a free objective. They do have control, as you say, around the Drake, because that is an equalizer.
Oh, Biofrost gets locked up, throws up the Unbreakable, but he is broken and taken down. That is a 5-0-0 Karsa. No one else on the team has been able to pick anything up. But it is all right. They are behind him for the damage, and they continue.
And that is exactly what I was talking about that TSM had to watch out for. Despite Braum being pretty tanky, you still can take him down if you're able to land the CC. They do so, and now Flash Wolves is going to try to press the issue. Turtle is topside. This is a 5v3.
Turtle trying to clear that wave out quick. He puts a hail of arrows and a piercing arrow through it, and he will be able to make it back.
With the Fish ultimate down, Orianna's not enough wave clear alone. They need the Varus there to help out, just because the rest of them aren't really feigning aggression anyway. We're going to see the replay as the equalizer out of context is so well layered with the W from the Jhin. Beautiful stuff from Flash Wolves. Not necessarily something we've seen necessarily from them in this tournament compared to the LMS performances. Also off screen was a second Drake picked up by Flash Wolves.
Yep. Gotta go fast. Also, Hauntzer's TP blown towards the end of that fight. Means his pressure is going to have to be a little more roam towards his team now.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to play around that, because this is a TP down, Fizz in the bot lane. Baron is certainly a threat at this stage of the game, almost 30 minutes in for Flash Wolves. Hauntzer going to have to be pretty careful, and TSM cannot afford to get caught whatsoever now when your top laner does not have TP, because one death will mean a Baron force, I think, from Flash Wolves.
And they're not even letting him get this first turret. Hauntzer says, I can just pressure this down quick. I'll be with you guys if we really need it. And Maple says, no, you will not. Having this first tier continues to push it back towards Hauntzer so quick. He's going to keep his time.
Yeah, Flash Wolves have done a really good job, I think, moving around the map with their lane assignments. I think, getting MMD out of a hard position by moving the team to take down Hauntzer multiple times, then having Maple answer him. They have really found intelligent answers, and now comes the flank.
Almost gets the hit. Biofrost getting pushed in. They go onto the tank once again. Svenskeren in the back line getting hit up by the curtain call. And Bjergsen's the next one. Svenskeren trying to get between the Lixa Swordar and himself, and Betty's now on the other side. They almost don't have an exit. They need to create one, but they can't find one. And Svenskeren's low, almost going down. Command protect. The dissonance not there, so the team can chase Bjergsen, chum the waters from Hauntzer. There was no teleport. It's been a long walk for him, and Turtle tries to turn it around. 3v1 goes down versus Betty, and that's 3 down versus 1.
Turtle coming in on like a flank there, and this is what Flash Wolves wanted to do. They get the engage. Hauntzer doesn't have TP, and Karsa, if they can take down Hanser, this is for sure, I think, going to be a Baron.
Pops him over the wall, a 2v1 now. Bjergsen there, low on mana, but should be able to dance around this one with Hanser. Karsa down. There's a shutdown, much needed for the team.
They're still under enemy lines. They still have to find a way out. Jin and Rise fast approaching and not much space to juke.
You just close your eyes, you know, Papa Smithy. They're going in. Bjergsen gets an auto attack. Hanser's been able to playful and trickster. One more shot, he should be good as it heats up. The Realm Warp forward as the deadly flourish misses. And Hanser looks like he's able to squirm out of this one, but you can't say it too soon. One shot from Betty is all it takes.
And Betty was under no pressure about 30 seconds ago when the fight started. It was kind of a calamity of errors by TSM. Remember, Hanser teleported last time. No way to enter this fight, and you expect Fizz to be the one messing up the backline Jin instead. Free shooting gallery for Flash Wolves. Hanser just continues. He thinks he's just going to take a turret, but there's no way for TSM to exit when they've juked this way, and it feels like Flash Wolves get everything, the ice cream cake, the cherry on top. It's all given to Flash Wolves.
I mean, TSM just postured way too aggressively without having TP on their top laner, and I do think that, you know, Bjergsen and Hanser make the best of a bad situation by surviving and delaying, but now it's Flash Wolves on the Baron with those res timers.
Right back into it. This is the control you look for a team. If Sven comes in, do they stop and kill, or do they continue? 2,500 health on Baron. Curtain call, stopping Biofrost and Turtle towards the backside. A piercing arrow and Sven to be over the wall. Chain of corruption to lock down the team. It's going to be hit by Karsa, and now Sven's in the middle. Sven goes down, and Turtle and Biofrost can't do much.
And those were the sort of Barons that Flash Wolves was not going for yesterday, so credit to them. It looked like a 50-50, but in the end, they thought through it really well. Once they saw the Chains of Corruption come through from Turtle, then they burned it down. Svenskeren far too late to come in. And it's not something we talk about a lot in League of Legends, but split spawns, when you have very long spawn timers on both Hanser and Bjergsen, that was the window to go for Baron. So even though there was 3v5, the Baron was easy to tank up, and Flash Wolves pulled the trigger for once, and that actually opens up the first sizable lead of the game.
Yeah, and I think Flash Wolves has just been playing such a good game. Like using the Rumble ultimate in combination with the Jin and the Tahm Kench Culting coming in. They're just finding picks on TSM time and time again, and they're able to force these fights in ways that TSM doesn't seem to be ready for.
But they've had such a long leash, Azale. That's my surprise, that after the early game, you wouldn't think they could just think about their Rumble ults, group Fizz 5, and never have to respect Fizz. But it felt like Hanser was in a lane alone with nothing happening for the majority of the 20 to 30 minute phase. And then Flash Wolves could finally layer ultimates like we saw between Betty and MMD and make things happen under no punishment around the map.
It wasn't to the extent that we saw against Gigabyte Marines, but Flash Wolves can weather the storm. They continue to take hits here, possibly again. The team starts to close in on Svenskeren and Hanser. Zanya's in, Svenskeren wants the kick back. Glacial Fisher comes out. Sword Art now back with a shockwave. A lot of ultimates used here. And Maple now coming in. Turtle's in this phase, and Turtle's gonna be taking damage. Flash over the walls now. Biofrost is that target. Hit down goes Biofrost. Svenskeren now in the eyes of Karsa. It's gonna be Maple picking up the kill though. Bjergsen's trying to hide in the brush. Deny the vision, but a triple kill from Betty as he gets the damage in.
And they still have the Baron buff. They're going to push down mid here. This should be an inhibitor at least. We'll see if Wild Turtle can get out, but it looks like he's going to be dead too. And these res timers are so long.
It's a really nice flank from Maple. This is a bit comedic over here.
Yeah, just walking around.
Let's just call it delaying tactics there when it comes to respawns, but I think the respawn's going to be too big. As you say, 34 minutes in. Still, 29 seconds on any real wave clear. TSM, Bjergsen's still dead, so they're going to look for the end.
Biofrost and Svenskeren, they can do a lot of hopping around if they need to, try to confuse Karsa and Betty, but I don't think they have any confusion on what the target is here. Biofrost throws up the Unbreakable. Baron minions coming in as they take down the first Nexus turret, 35 minutes in, and Biofrost gets melted. 7-1-7 Karsa as they look to the Nexus. The team's on it. This is going to be it. 17-9. Flash Wolves take down Team Solo Mid.
Team Solo Mid had a massive advantage in the early to mid game. The Fizz should have been peerless. Trinity Force finished before you could really blink and enter this game. But subsequent to that, they really took their foot off the accelerator. First, they put too many resources around the Fizz when he already had an inherent advantage. Ignite Fizz with Trinity Force. And then when the Fizz started to get hunted down by multiple members of Flash Wolves, they were never trading up. They were going even at best and often trading down. And when you have an advantage in the early to mid game and trade down, you got big bigger problems than anything else.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I just think Karsa and the rest of the Flash Wolves deserve so much credit for how they did play in the mid game, in the late game. I think they looked like the far superior team. They're always able to find the fights. You know, Betty on the Jin, whether it's meta or not, he looked very effective. 606 on him and 717 on Karsa. These guys were huge for the team, and I think Flash Wolves played very well with the hand that they were dealt, and TSM was not able to get the most out of the advantages that they earned in the early game.
And we thought about the draft and we said, okay, to make this work, it needs to be Karsa. He was the one we singled out for praise. No longer Maple Karsa. Maple a great mid laner. Karsa in career best form. And this was the game we were kind of waiting for through the first three. Some good games, but not dominant games. He was never actually all over the enemy jungler, even if his KDA was often impressive. This was a carry performance and then some. 14 out of 17 kill participation, and the bulk of the gold for Flash Wolves.
Absolutely crazy. And I think, look back to the TSM side, I think we can easily look at that hiccup towards when Svenskeren kept going top. They weren't taking the turret. It was the wait for the gank when we already saw this solo pressure from Hanser able to kill MMD, but it paused that turret. First turret blood went over to Flash Wolves and everything started to escalate.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sven really just wanted to snowball that even harder. He was hoping they were going to get first turret gold, solo onto Hanser. That was their game plan. All the eggs in the Fizz basket. And, they weren't able to get enough out of it. And Flash Wolves, I think, just responded better to the situation.
Absolutely. So let's send it over to our analysts to see what they make of that Flash Wolves win.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Before we get into anything, I got to welcome Crepo to the desk, replacing Papa Smithy, as Papa Smithy's going to cast.
Can I just say, I do not appreciate the height of this desk. I'm feeling a little Frodo right now, but...
We can get you a box.
No, I refuse to step. I got weights.
Okay, all right. Well, but here's the thing. Flash Wolves, second win of the day, definitely seem to be finding their footing a little bit in the tournament. Still not the cleanest win ever, but they'll be happy to come away from the day with a couple wins under their belt. Let's look at how they did it, starting with champion select and moving into these plays immediately in the top lane, right? Because we have TSM looking towards their solo lanes as we've asked them to do in the past, throwing a lot of attention up there for Hanser in the top lane.
This is where we expected these two teams to really clash, right? TSM back to playing around Hanser, getting a split pusher going, and Flash Wolves, MMD has definitely looked like the squishiest member, the most attackable force.
Yeah, definitely agree with their choice to really punish this early Rumble pick. I don't think teams should survive picking a Rumble early when Fizz is available. Here are a couple of these top lane fights. MMD went 0-3 eventually, and that propelled TSM forward in the map state where the side lane belonged to the Fizz. But then Flash Wolves came in with some unique aspects of their composition that really snowballed the game for them.
Yeah, it was really about the mobility, the fact that they had the Tahm Kench, that they had the Rise, that they were able to, as Azael was saying in the cast, hunt down that Fizz into the side lane and not allow him to use his power there and abuse those matchups.
There was one thing I didn't like about this game is that there was a potential for Bjergsen on third pick on blue side to just lock in a mid lane and then Bantu out himself, just get
like
Syndra and then remove Echo and then just maybe hard carry the game. This game, Bjergsen was stuck on a side lane playing Orianna, playing patch up while Wild Turtle and Bjergsen were sharing farm in the mid lane. I think that's not catering towards TSM strengths.
You got something to add there?
I 100% agree, but I kind of wanted to move it quickly back. We kind of skipped over MMD a little bit, and it's like this question mark of his effective champion pool seems relatively small, and I was curious if that would continue to punish Flash Wolves in their draft. They might be pinch and might have to early priority pick champions, like you said, blind picking that Rumble. And I think it's something now like a target on Flash Wolves that we need to check in on for the rest of the tournament, because if they need to get him on certain champions that he feels he can only play, if he can't reach out to the Fizz, if he can't look towards the Kennen, that's a huge gapping hole in their plan.
Especially when you're looking at other top laners like 957 or Huni, who have put up very solid solo performances. I'm going to push us ahead to another replay. 22 minutes in, Hanser here getting caught in the bot lane. So with this advantage that was built, it's handing some advantages back.
Yeah, I mean, this is a one play as well where they just knew that the Flash Wolves were taking this Drake. And Hanser, even though he has this one ward over on the other side of that tribe rush, against this composition that has so much mobility with Tahm Kench, with Rise, you have to be more respectful when pushing out these side lanes, and they collapsed.
Exactly, and this is also where TSM fails as a team, right? When Hanser is playing forward, they need to try and get something ready on the other side of the map. They weren't in time to get a Baron, maybe contested, because you can bait double ulti there and have Hanser by time if you get the cross map. But TSM, again, as a team, we're falling short.
All right, and then our final replay is going to be that big one near the red buff. This is kind of a game breaker if it hadn't happened already.
Yeah, and this is just such a chaotic fight. Again, it's the mobility that helps helps Flash Wolves get into position to start this off. They get them into a choke point, and It's just getting attacked and ripped apart from every single angle here.
And what it highlights very well is that if you're stuck on a side lane where Hanser is being matched by the Rise is bringing Ghost to the party. So what TSM is looking for essentially is a 4v5 where Hanser TPs in early. Yet what ended up happening every single time is when this Rise went to the other side of the map, TSM's 4-man squad was not waiting for Hanser to push in that bottom lane. Instead, they went deep into the enemy jungle and they got punished for it.
Yeah, and you could tell they were a bit out of sorts there in the mid game. They made that call to go back out into the open, into the Baron area after Hanser's teleport was down. So they didn't even have that option to ever even up the numbers in a 5-on-5. And, you know, really good use of that Tahm Kench and the mobility by Flash Wolves to catch him.
And what's super cool is that this is finally the Flash Wolves being decisive in a mid game. You know, we've constantly seen these games where they seem indecisive, they kind of stall things out, it turns into a hiatus, but they use their composition so well to kind of band-aid that effect.
Yeah, I love this style from Flash Wolves where you use these repositioning ultimates like the Rise or the Tahm Kench combined with their normal vision control. I think that's really well for them. Problem is, I feel like it's really TSM still handing away the game. The communication between the 4-man squad and the 1-man side lane, especially when Hanser is ahead, seems very lacking. Like, your 4-man can't go deep if you need to push out. Because imagine Hanser pushes bot, reveals the Rise, then TP's in. They win a 5v4.
It's got to be worrisome for TSM when yesterday they're playing Protect Wild Turtle. It doesn't work for them. We say we want to see them go back towards solo lane focus. They do that, but still aren't finding success for that reason. As you mentioned, a little miscoordination around the map brings about their demise. Now, the Flash Wolves and TSM may be done for the day, but there's still more MSI action coming up. Next, we've got the Gigabyte Marines versus G2 Esports. Don't go anywhere.
There's the 6 from MMD as well. He gets the flash forward. Damage down to half HP. They could be able to finish it. Smoke screen comes out and they drop MMD. It's not enough mitigation from Karsa. Hanser's going to be forced to die. Takes the Q past the minion. Collateral damage misses. MMD very low. 200 HP. Tries to deny vision in the brush, but Karsa wards it. Now it's a 1v1. So the team can chase Bjergsen and chum the waters from Hanser. There was no teleport. It's been a long walk for him. And Turtle tries to turn it around. 3v1. Goes down versus Betty. Svenskaren's now in the eyes of Karsa. It's going to be Maple picking up the kill, though. Bjergsen's trying to hide in the brush. Deny the vision, but a triple kill from Betty is going to be it. 17-9.